Hello, and welcome to 502 Sessions. I'm your host, Brian Kirby. Today is a special show. We have the Matt Savage Quartet, and we're taping live at Newbridge on the Charles in the Shapiro Community Center in Great Meadow Hall. We have a studio audience for the first time ever, so you'll probably hear some applause, and it's been a big setup for us, and it's really an exciting show. I've been listening to Matt and the group warm up. They sound excellent, I must say. So without further ado, the Matt Savage Quartet with Matt Savage on piano, Mark Zaleski on saxophones, Sang-ouk Jung on bass, and Patrick Simard on drums. Matt Savage. So Matt, first I really want to thank you for making the trip up from New York City, right? You came up today?
I came from New York City.
And you're originally from?
I was actually born in Sudbury, but I've lived in New Hampshire during my childhood as well.
And I read from your bio that you went to Berklee first?
I went to Berklee for undergrad for my bachelor's degree.
And now you're off at?
Manhattan School of Music in New York.
How much time left there do you have?
This is actually my last semester. I'll be done with my master's degree in May.
Master's in?
Jazz piano.
Jazz piano. How's it going?
It's going very well. It's been intense, but worth it.
I must say that you have quite the bio for, do you mind if I mention how old you are?
Yes, you may.
22, correct? Mm-hmm. So you have quite the bio for a 22-year-old. You've been writing since you were how old?
Let's see, since I was 7 or 8. I did my first jazz shows when I was 9.
Your first jazz shows when you were 9? With a trio or?
With a trio, yeah.
Wow. Do you remember much about that?
I do. I do remember a lot about that. I don't remember much from before then, though.
So let me ask you, when you're 9, playing a club, I assume? A jazz club, or?
Yeah, kind of just mostly local events around New England.
With adult sidemen?
Yes.
And so at 9 years old, you're writing the tunes, you're directing the sidemen, how was that experience for you?
It was really interesting. I just remember traveling a lot, but I just remember as I entered college, I still needed to learn a lot about organization, because I'm doing a lot more things on my own right now.
And when you were, so you performed starting at 9, right all the way up until now. So were your sidemen of help to you with guidance? Or?
Absolutely.
Anybody that stands out in particular? Or I guess you don't have to mention any
Well,
names.
I formed my first trio with John Funkhauser and Steve Silverstein. They both teach in Massachusetts.
I'm familiar with John Funkhauser, bass player, and he was a great pianist as well.
Yes, great pianist as well.
And so when you're writing, you started gigging at 9, you said, but you've been writing since 6, 7. So
yeah, I just remember writing little exercises for the piano, but then I wrote my first jazz tunes when I started leading the jazz band.
So what is the writing process like for you? Do you hear the changes? Do you come up with a melody?
It starts from the melody, yes.
Always from the melody?
I think so. Like the changes kind of just naturally flow from the melody.
And you had mentioned the first tune. What was the name of the first tune?
First tune is called Some Beach Somewhere.
And so there's also a theme or an emotion you're trying to evoke there.
Yeah, it's kind of a tropical feel.
So when you're writing, the melody comes first, the changes, the tropical feel. How do you work that in?
Well, it's just a tempo. It's a sort of speed. Like that, it all flows naturally from one source, the melody.
And you gigged around New England a lot because you went to school here, you grew up here.
Yes.
And now you're in New York. I'm just wondering, can you just talk a little bit about the differences between the music scene in the two cities? So, if you don't mind. And what your experience has been with that.
Well, the New York jazz scene is definitely a lot larger, and there are a lot more jazz musicians in New York. But even though there are a lot more musicians living in New York, the musicians still travel frequently, not just to places like Boston, but all over. So New York, it's kind of home base, but it's also one of many stops on tour, depending on how your schedule can work out. But both cities have very strong jazz scenes. And I definitely enjoy going back and forth between the two cities.
And so you mentioned Japan. Was that on one of your tours, or?
That was actually. I was invited to play there in 2012. So that was a series of tours with the Japanese trio.
Oh, so you went over you went over as a pianist and you formed a band there, or?
Yep, that's how it worked.
Wow. And how was that? I hear there's a real happening jazz scene.
There is
in Japan.
a great jazz scene. People really listen intently to jazz music in Japan.
Did you tour with the same band all the time, or did you have a different band?
You mean in Japan?
Yes, in Japan. When you were
there. The bass player was a friend of mine from Berklee, who's now living in Japan, back in his hometown of Kobe. So Shota Ishikawa is his name. The drummer's Tatsuhiko Takeda. So I toured with them, and I also recorded a live album, which is a limited edition CD. It's my newest release, a live celebration. It's a companion to a bigger celebration, which is my latest studio release. And recently I've been doing some shows of my solo classical piano compositions out in New York and Baltimore. I hope to perform them in Boston sometime soon.
So you're a jazz composer and a classical composer?
Yes. I have a piano sonata and a series of preludes that I've been performing recently.
Is it the same writing process? I'm more familiar.
It's a very different writing process. It's much longer, because with a jazz tune, you kind of write a melody and chords, and the rest is improvisation, which of course is a very difficult art form. But a jazz tune is kind of written in the same style as a pop tune, like melody and chords, even though it sounds very different. But with classical music, you write out every single note, and that takes a long time.
So, you have any guess as to between jazz and classical, how many tunes you've written since you were 6?
A couple of hundred.
Wow, and you have 11, I was about to say albums, but you have 11 CDs out?
Yeah.
Do you still have the first CD from, how old were you when you made your first?
Yeah, that was really funny. I think I was 7, actually. It wasn't a full-blown jazz release, but it included some of my short compositions. And it was a collaboration with another jazz pianist for autism research. It was really interesting. It was kind of a demo CD of my music, and this other jazz pianist, Aaron Katzenellenbogen, teaches at NEC.
Okay. And then when did you make your first, I guess you started with the trio for jazz. When did you make your first trio recording?
That was when I was 9, yeah, 2001.
Well, Matt, the group sounds great. I'm really glad that you're here. And you have
Good to be here.
You have some more music for us?
Certainly. So I think we're going to bring Mark back up. We're going to do a brand new tune of mine. Hasn't been recorded yet. It's called Go On.
Our premiere on 502 Sessions. All right, great. Matt, thanks very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Once again, the Matt Savage Quartet. Matt Savage, pianist and composer. Mark Zaleski on saxophones. Patrick Simard on drums. And Sang-ouk Jung on bass. Matt, I want to ask you a question. It's obvious you have a lot of talent and ability. When or how old were you when you first, I guess I'll say, discovered the piano? Was the piano the first instrument that you...
It was my first instrument, and I started at the age of 6.
And on your own, you saw a piano and you sat down and started to play? Or
Yeah,
your mom...
I started with a toy xylophone piano, actually.
Wait, one of those little pink ones with the,
yes.
you hit it and it goes ding, ding?
One of those.
Wow.
But then my parents showed me the real piano.
Did you have a real piano at your home, you mean? Or
Yes, I never played it, though.
So you had a real piano and a toy piano?
Yep.
And you started on the toy?
On the toy, yes.
And your mom said, Matt.
There's a real piano in here, yep.
And so then, of course, it has a lot more keys.
Oh, yes, it's got 80 more.
So, did you actually write little tunes on your toy piano?
Oh, no, not yet.
No, okay.
I just remember playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Your mom or your dad, whomever, showed you the real piano. Mm-hmm. And what happened then? You started to play it? You took lessons?
Yeah, I took lessons after a week. I just started to play it, looking through the piano books.
How much were you able to teach yourself?
I was able to teach myself a lot of it, but I remember my mom had to tell me that the left hand's different.
You mean the treble and the bass clef?
Yeah.
So your mom kind of coached you along for a week and then said, Matt,
Yep.
how about some lessons? You have a lot of natural ability, as I said. Would you agree with that? It's obvious that you have some talent. I mean, you start at 6 and you've written over 200 songs to 22. That's incredible. So when you show up to take a piano lesson from a teacher and you already have so much information pouring through your hands.
Yeah, but that was all easy to play music. My teacher showed me the possibilities of the repertoire. Like not just advanced classical music, but different ways to improvise in jazz. And not just to improvise quickly too, you have to improvise with feeling, with different kinds of sensibilities for different audiences. And that's what I really needed to learn. There's so much to learn.
So your teacher helped harness your ability in a way,
Yeah.
and focus it, make concentrated for you. With so much innate ability, do you find that you have to really concentrate to focus your practicing to get the most out of it? Or
Certainly, but in many ways it's not about the quantity of the practicing and playing, it's about the quality. Like I have trouble, like sometimes I have trouble really knowing what's expressive. Even though I try to play as passionately as I can. It's easy to just do things mathematically when you've played the piano so long. But I've really been focusing on blending different genres and using interesting devices in my jazz solos.
So what kind of tools do you use to help develop the expressive nature? Do you record yourself and then listen to it to see if it was expressive, or?
I'm focusing a lot on the melodic aspect of things recently because I've been studying so much classical piano in the last few years and theory, like really advanced music that I didn't know too much about earlier. But basically what I'm trying to do now is to take all of that but put the melody first so that it sounds like, so even if I'm doing a more unusual sounding riff that might come from the 20th century or something, that I make it sound like really coherent.
And that last tune, speaking of, I don't know if it's more modern now, that was an odd meter?
Yeah, that's an odd meter tune. Part of the tune's in 4/4 and part of it's in 9/4. It's called The End. It's a brand new tune of mine.
All right, Matt, I'd love to hear another song.
Oh, thanks. I'd like to play one of mine from Welcome Home, which is a 2010 album featuring Bobby Watson and Jeremy Pelt, among others. And this one is called Night Falls, so there are two halves to that release, country and city. This is the conclusion to the country side of the album. It's written about the silent, pitch black nights in New Hampshire. It's called Night Falls.
The Matt Savage Quartet.
Yeah, I think this tune and the previous one I'm going to do in a trio setting.
My mistake, the Matt
trio.
Savage Trio for this one. Matt Savage.
Thank you very much. Two, 3, 4.
Matt Savage, I really want to thank you for making the trip up today.
Oh, my pleasure. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you again for inviting me.
Mark Zaleski on saxophones, Patrick Simard on drums, Sang-ouk Jung on bass. The Matt Savage Quartet here on 502 Sessions. I'd also like to really thank Newbridge on the Charles. We're here, as I said, in the Shapiro Community Center in Great Meadow Hall. I'd like to thank David Rader and Jane Baker and Carol Gallagher for hosting us today. They've really put in a lot of work putting this program together and welcoming us here. So thank you very much. Thank you. 502 Sessions, I'm Brian Kirby. You can contact me directly at 502sessions@gmail.com if you're a group or you're in a group or a musician and you have a lot of original music. 502 Sessions is all about featuring musicians in their original music. So please get in touch with me. I respond to all emails, I check out the links, and I would love to have more feature guests such as Matt. Thank you, Matt.
You're very welcome.
You have another song for us?
Yeah, I have one more tune for all of you. This was written actually right after my arrival at Berklee. It's the title track from one of my albums, well, partially at least. It's called Welcome Home, Boston. It's good to be back home.
The Matt Savage Quartet.